It started with a locked door. Not the bedroom, not the bathroom. It was the laundry room, the one room in the house no one ever locked. I came home early that Thursday, around 2:45 p.m. There was no reason to suspect anything. Just a long workday that ended abruptly when the system went down, and the boss told everyone to call it a day. I didn't call or text ahead. I thought I'd surprise her, maybe even take her out somewhere. Something casual, spontaneous, to shake the dust off. I walked in, dropped my keys on the counter, and heard it. Movement. Subtle. Not shuffling, not footsteps. Quick. Sharp. Like someone had just turned in panic. The sound came from the hallway near the laundry room. I froze. Not because I was scared, but because something in that sound wasn't familiar. You know your house. You know how people move inside it. You know the rhythm of ordinary. This was not that. The door was shut tight. A small light glowed beneath it. I turned the knob. Locked. "Hey," I said. Not loud. Just enough for whoever was in there to hear. No answer. "Everything okay?" I asked again. No response. Only silence. Thick. Intentional. I stepped back and waited. 10 seconds passed. The door clicked, then cracked open 2 inches. Her face appeared. Not startled. Not embarrassed. Just annoyed. Irritated. Like I had interrupted her mid-nap. "What?" she said, not even opening the door fully. "You locked the laundry room?" "I was sorting stuff. Why are you home?" There was a long silence. She opened the door the rest of the way and casually stepped out. Her shirt was inside out. I didn't notice it right away, because she had her arms folded tight across her chest and was talking too fast, too pointedly, like she was trying to steer the moment past me. "You could have texted, you scared the hell out of me," she said. I looked past her. Something was off. The window was cracked open. It hadn't been earlier that morning. There was a smell in the air. Not cologne. Not detergent. Just unfamiliar. She closed the door behind her like it was nothing, smiled thinly, walked past me. That night, I stayed awake longer than usual. I didn't ask more questions. I didn't press. I just watched. Watched how she hovered near her phone. Watched how she jumped when the doorbell rang the next day and no one was there. Watched how she suddenly had new rules for our son Tyler. Knock before entering any room, even hers. Watched how she forgot the name of her coworker she'd supposedly been with 2 nights before. Watched her switch deodorants. It was 2 weeks later when Tyler came to me. He wasn't supposed to be home. He was suspended for a school fight I hadn't even heard about until the principal called me. Not her. He stood in the hallway like he'd seen a ghost. "I wasn't trying to snoop," he said. "I swear. I was just checking the iPad to finish a project for school." She forgot to log out. I asked him what he saw. He didn't answer. He just showed me. I didn't want to see the messages. But I read them. Not once. Not twice. I read them until the words stopped feeling like English. She wasn't just having an affair. She was bragging, laughing, sending photos that weren't just revealing. They were mocking. And it was the way she talked about me that stung. Not the betrayal. The disrespect. The reduction of me to some disposable background character in the twisted comedy she was performing with this man. Then I saw the message that changed everything. My stepson was curious about what I was hiding. So I gave him a glimpse, and let's just say he reacted. It was followed by a laughing emoji. A photo. Not explicit, but suggestive enough. Her shirt lifted, just barely. Just enough to raise every question I never wanted to ask. My heart stopped. My stomach turned to glass. I looked at Tyler. He was frozen, pale. The message wasn't meant for him. But he saw it. He read it. And now he couldn't unsee it. Couldn't breathe. I closed the iPad. I sat down. I told Tyler to go to his room, that I'd handle it. He nodded but didn't move for a long time. I was stuck. Not because I didn't know what to do, but because I knew exactly what had to happen. And it scared me. What came next wasn't about feelings. It was about truth. Cold, raw, unforgiving truth. She walked in at 6:42 p.m. that night, humming, holding takeout in her hand like nothing happened, like the walls weren't about to collapse. She said, "I got your favorite," without looking up. I didn't answer. When she turned and saw me sitting in the living room with the iPad on the table, the smile dropped. But not out of guilt, out of irritation. Like she was annoyed she got caught, not sorry for the catch. She said nothing. Neither did I. The silence wasn't awkward. It was nuclear. And then I asked her the question that started the unraveling. Who did you give a glimpse to? Her eyes flashed. Her fingers tightened around the bag. And she smiled. Not a guilty smile. Not a nervous one. But the kind of smile that says, "You're not ready for what I'm about to say." And just like that, the war began. She walked over to the kitchen counter and dropped the takeout like it weighed nothing. Her movements were slow, deliberate. She wasn't scrambling for excuses. She wasn't pretending. No, she was calculating. Like she wanted to choose the most devastating version of the truth just to see how deep it could cut. "You went through my messages," she said, as if that was the crime. Not the betrayal. Not the sick joke of a text. Not the photo. Just the fact that I had looked. "You and your little spy," she added, glancing toward the hallway where Tyler's bedroom door was shut. It was the way she said "little spy" that did something to me. Like she was proud of humiliating him. Like a child caught a secret. And instead of feeling shame, she mocked him for noticing. "You sent a picture of yourself. Like that? After my son saw you?" I asked. My voice didn't raise. It didn't need to. It was like throwing a match onto a lake of gasoline. She leaned on the counter, smirking. "Oh, come on. Don't be dramatic. It wasn't even that kind of picture." "He was nosy," I teased. "It's not my fault he can't take a joke. He's 17. She rolled her eyes, pushed herself upright, and crossed her arms. "Then he should stop acting like a 7-year-old and mind his business." Couldn't believe it. This wasn't denial. This wasn't some desperate cover-up. She meant every word. There was no shame in her tone. Just irritation that the show had been interrupted. "I know about the man," I said finally. "The photos. The messages. You weren't just cheating, you were laughing about it. Using this house, our son, like props in some disgusting game." She didn't flinch. "You done?" she asked. "Because if this is your big monologue moment, Brad, it's underwhelming. You never pay attention to me. You never ask what I want. And suddenly you're Sherlock Holmes because a teenager found something he didn't understand. There it was. The pivot. The twisted defense. It's your fault. That line every liar throws out when cornered, hoping you'll trip on your own guilt instead of chasing theirs. I stood up. Not to intimidate, just to move. Couldn't stay still. My hands were shaking. Not with rage. With disbelief. With the sheer scale of the deception. And then she dropped it. The line I still hear echoing every time the house goes quiet. "I wanted him to see." I stopped breathing. "What did you say?" "I wanted him to see," she repeated, calm as a cloud. "You tiptoe around him like he's made of glass. Maybe it's time he learned this family isn't as perfect as you pretend it is. Maybe he needs to know who really runs this house." My mind cracked down the center. This wasn't just cheating. This wasn't just a betrayal of marriage. It was something else, something more cruel, more personal. She had weaponized her body, her secrets, even our son, to assert some kind of twisted dominance. "You're sick," I said. "This isn't anger. This isn't even selfishness. It's control. You wanted to burn everything just to stand in the ashes and feel tall." Her face changed for a moment. Just a flicker, like she didn't expect me to say that. But it passed. "I'm not the one sneaking around like a rat," she muttered. "I'm not the one hiding behind a teenager. You're the one who made him part of this," I said, pointing to the iPad. "You wanted him involved. You invited him into your mess. You crossed a line you don't come back from." There was silence again. Long, heavy, lead-weighted. Then she turned away, grabbed her phone, and without a word, walked into the other room and shut the door. Like none of this mattered. Like we were in the middle of some sitcom argument she'd already tuned out of. I stood there for 10 minutes before I could move again. The house was quiet. Too quiet. That kind of quiet where you realize it's not peace. It's collapse. I went to Tyler's room. Knocked gently. He opened it, eyes red. "I heard," he said softly. I nodded. Neither of us spoke. Because what was there to say? His stepmother had sent a photo of herself to another man and laughed about his reaction like he was some perverse punchline. His home wasn't safe. His trust was fractured. And mine? Mine had been incinerated. But this wasn't over. This wasn't going to be a clean break. She didn't leave. She refused. And that's when the next storm began. She didn't leave. I told her to. That night, after I put Tyler to bed and stood staring at the bedroom door she'd closed behind her, I said the words clearly, "You need to leave this house." She didn't even come out. No arguing. No crying. No apologies. Just silence. The kind that doesn't come from shock or guilt. The kind that comes from arrogance. She believed she still had control. That the house, the rules, the story all still belonged to her. I slept on the couch. Not because I had to, because I couldn't bear to touch the bed again. It was tainted. That room wasn't mine anymore. It was hers and his. A rented space for betrayal. I stared at the ceiling for hours, and I don't think I blinked. In the morning, she came out of the bedroom dressed like she was going to brunch. Perfect hair, makeup done, phone in her hand. No eye contact. No acknowledgement. She just walked right past me and said, "We're out of almond milk." I didn't respond. She left. Didn't say goodbye. And for 5 hours, the house was quiet. Tyler stayed in his room. Emily was at school. Thank God. I took those hours to think. Lawyers. Finances. Custody. Safety. Because this wasn't just about a marriage anymore. It wasn't just about cheating. It was about the kind of person who could play mental games with a teenager, manipulate his mind, and laugh about it. She had crossed a threshold most people don't even see. And she acted like it was nothing. But then came the unexpected. Around noon, the front door opened. I thought it was her. But it wasn't. It was the man. The one from the messages. From the photos. From her phone. Standing in my doorway like he was invited. Like he had a right. Tall. Tattooed. Sunglasses on. Holding a plastic bag like he was bringing supplies for a picnic. He looked around like he expected music to be playing. Like he thought he was stepping into some weekend getaway. "Is she home?" he asked. I stared at him. "Who are you?" His expression shifted, just slightly. "I'm looking for her. She said to meet her here." My fists clenched. My mouth went dry. "She doesn't live here anymore," I said. He laughed. "What? Since when?" I stepped forward. "Since the second you walked into my house." That wiped the smirk off his face. "She said it was over between you two," he muttered, lowering the bag. "She said you were some dead-end husband. Always working, emotionally checked out." I didn't blink. "She lied." "Yeah," he said. "I'm starting to get that." For a moment he stood there, like he was trying to decide if it was worth arguing. Then he looked past me into the house, as if searching for her. "She's not here," I said again. "And you need to leave." But instead of turning around, he sighed and dropped the bag on the porch. "Just tell her I came by," he muttered. "She's not answering her phone." And with that, he walked off. I stood in the doorway for a long time, staring at the bag. I should have thrown it out. Should have kicked it off the porch like garbage. But I didn't. I brought it inside. Inside the bag were candles, red wine, a new phone charger, and a greeting card. It wasn't sealed. I opened it. The handwriting was hers. It said, "Let's take control back. Together. I want this house to be ours, not his. Time to move things forward." My chest went hollow. She had invited him here, into our home, while I was still living in it, while our children were sleeping in the next room. She wasn't planning to leave. She was planning to replace me. The war hadn't started the night I confronted her. That was just the warning shot. The real battle? It was just beginning. And I wasn't playing defense anymore. I didn't tell her I knew about the card. I didn't text. Didn't call. I waited. She came home at 3:17 p.m. like she'd been out shopping, swinging a boutique bag like she was returning from paradise. She walked into the house humming again, like it was some kind of spell she cast to keep reality from biting her. That same song. Always the same song. Light, stupid melody like a ringtone from a cheap phone. She didn't see the bag on the kitchen counter right away. But when she did, her body language shifted. Her shoulders stiffened. The plastic crinkled under her fingers as she opened it. Slowly. Too slowly. Then she saw the card already opened. I watched from the hallway, arms crossed. She turned and saw me, eyes darting like a rat in a room with no holes left to crawl through. "You went through my stuff?" "No," I said. "He delivered it." She paused. Then, instead of fear, instead of guilt, she smiled. She actually smiled. "So now you know everything," she said. "Good. Saves me the trouble." I stepped closer. "You were going to move him in?" She laughed. Full, sharp, and mean. "You make it sound like a coup. You've barely been here the last year. You float around this house like a ghost. Expect me to wait for your scraps of attention, and then act shocked when I take what I want. You tried to turn Tyler against me. That struck something." Her eyes narrowed. "I tried to show him what happens when men treat women like they're invisible. By teasing him with some twisted glimpse," I snapped. "By humiliating a 17-year-old boy to win a fight with me?" She stepped forward now, the smile gone. "You think I care what you think is twisted? You've been playing husband while living like a roommate. You don't even see me anymore." That was her story. That I neglected her. That I didn't see her. But I saw her now, clear as daylight. "You wanted to break the house to prove you still controlled the pieces." She didn't respond. So I told her what she didn't know. "He came here, earlier today. Thought he was moving in. Thought this house was going to be yours. Told me what you said about me, how I'm a placeholder. A ghost. That I wouldn't fight back." Her face went rigid. "You're lying." "I'm not." She turned to the bag, grabbed the card and read it again like it might say something different now. Then, she ripped it in half. "That wasn't supposed to be left here," she muttered half to herself. "You were going to ambush me," I said. "Not just cheat. Not just leave. You were going to replace me in front of our kids like I was some piece of broken furniture." Then she turned to me, voice colder than it had ever been. "You never would have seen it coming. You're slow, Brad. Always 2 steps behind. That's why you lost me." I didn't flinch, because she hadn't just lost me. She had made an enemy. "You need to leave," I said again. "This time, I'm not asking. I've already spoken to a lawyer. The documents are being prepared. You'll get them next week." She stepped back, stunned. Not by the words, but by the tone. Because for the first time in a long time, I wasn't pleading. I wasn't wounded. I was done. "You can't just throw me out," she hissed. "Watch me." And then came the part one hadn't planned. Tyler stepped out of his room. He must have heard everything. He stood at the end of the hallway, eyes focused on her, like he was seeing her for the first time as something other than his stepmother. He didn't speak. He didn't move. She looked at him. For the first time since all of this began, her mask cracked. "Tyler." He didn't answer. She turned back to me, and I swear, there was a flicker. Not of regret, but realization. She wasn't in control anymore. And I wasn't playing her game. I nodded toward the door. "Start packing." She didn't pack. Of course she didn't. She shut herself in the bedroom for hours, dragging her feet, blasting music like she was trying to drown out the consequences. Every once in a while, I'd hear drawers slam or the closet open, but when I peeked in later, nothing had moved. Her things were still everywhere. Perfume bottles lined up like soldiers. Jewelry tangled where she always left it. Her life scattered across my room like it still belonged there. The only thing she did take. The photo of her and me from our wedding. But she didn't pack it out of sentiment. She shattered it. Left it face down on the floor, glass spiderwebbed across our fake smiles. I called my lawyer the next morning. Escalated. She would be served in days. Tyler barely spoke to her, slipping out early and coming home late. I didn't press him. We shared something now. A quiet grief and a louder fury. Something in both of us had been violated. And neither of us had the words for it yet. Then came the real twist. It happened 2 days later. Saturday morning. I was in the kitchen making coffee, and she walked in like she'd just returned from vacation. Hair curled. Makeup perfect. Purse on her arm. "I have something to tell you," she said, tone flat. "I don't want to hear it." "You're going to." I turned. She held up a manila envelope. "Paternity test," she said. My stomach dropped. "No," I said. "Don't." She opened the envelope and slid a paper across the counter. "I thought you should know. You raised her. But she's not yours." The words hit me harder than any slap could have. Emily, 6 years old. My daughter. My everything. And just like that, she was pulling the rug from under me. Not out of necessity, not even out of defense, but as a parting shot. A final cruelty. I picked up the paper. I read the numbers. I wanted to throw it, burn it, tear it in half. But I didn't. I looked at her instead. You waited 6 years to tell me this? She shrugged. Didn't seem relevant until now. You're telling me like it's a joke. She leaned forward, voice calm. Too calm. I'm telling you because now you're not just divorcing me. You're giving up a child that was never yours. Might save you some money in the long run. She said it like she was giving financial advice, not tearing open the only bond one had left that felt untouched by her rot. I walked past her, into the hallway, into Emily's room. She wasn't home, staying with her aunt for the weekend. Safe, unaware. I sat on her bed. The wallpaper, the little drawings, the stuffed animals, all ours. All me and her. She knew me as Dad. No one else. No one before. That didn't change because of a lab result. But the betrayal still hit like a freight train. Behind me, I heard her heels clicking down the hallway. Closer. I'm not leaving this house, she called. You can throw your tantrums, you can call your lawyers. I'm not going anywhere. If you want out, you leave. I stood up, calm, cold. You know what the worst part is? I said, turning to face her in the doorway. It's not that you lied. It's that you waited until the moment you knew you were losing to set everything on fire. Her face didn't change. You're right, she said. And I'm not done yet. And then the phone rang. Not mine. Hers. She glanced at it. And for the first time, her face changed. She paled. She stepped back, turned away, answered it without looking at me. Her voice dropped. I couldn't hear what was said. But whatever it was, it cracked her. She hung up fast, put the phone down. Then she turned to me and said something I wasn't ready for. I need your help. I laughed. Actually laughed. You need my help? It's about him. The man. The one from the messages. The one she tried to invite into our home like a replacement part. What about him? She didn't answer. She just looked down at her phone like it was about to explode. I made a mistake, she whispered. A bad one. And just like that, the game shifted again. She wasn't the one holding the matches anymore. She didn't follow me when I walked out of the room. She just stood there, staring at her phone like it had turned into a loaded weapon. And in some twisted way, I think it had. Because for the first time since this whole unraveling started, she wasn't smirking. She wasn't taunting. She looked scared. It didn't sit right with me. Not because I wanted to help her. I didn't. But because fear like that doesn't come from losing a divorce. Comes from something deeper, something darker. 10 minutes passed. I waited in the living room, back turned, pretending to scroll through my phone. But I was listening, watching her reflection in the hallway mirror. She paced, back and forth, fingers tapping the side of her thigh, phone clutched tight in her hand like a lifeline she didn't trust. Then she spoke, not to me, just out loud. He wasn't supposed to take it seriously. I turned slowly. What did you do? She looked at me. Not like a wife, not like an enemy, just a person unraveling. I told him you were violent. I froze. You what? I didn't think he'd do anything. I was angry. I wanted him to feel like he had to protect me, like he was stepping into something noble. I wanted him to think you were dangerous so he'd rush in. Take charge. My mind spiraled. Images, Tyler, Emily, our home. All suddenly in a new kind of danger. What did you say to him? She swallowed hard. I said you'd snapped. That you hit things. That you scared Tyler. That you once locked me out in the cold just to punish me. None of it was true. Not even close. And she knew it. You lied to a man who barely knows me. Who you're sleeping with? And told him I was violent? Her voice cracked. I didn't think he'd believe it. But then he started saying things. Sending me pictures of baseball bats. Talking about how men like you need to be taught a lesson. She dropped the phone onto the couch like it burned her. He said he's coming tonight. I stood still, ice in my veins. Did you tell him not to? She didn't answer. Did you tell him not to? I didn't think he'd actually. She started. That was enough. I picked up the phone, scrolled through her texts. I shouldn't have, but I did. And what I saw, she hadn't just lied. She had fed it, encouraged it, pushed him toward it like she was building a monster and wanted to see what it would do. Messages like, he's scaring the kids again. I don't feel safe. I wish someone would handle him once and for all. Each one worse than the last. I didn't think, she said again. You never think, I snapped. You just throw grenades and close your eyes. There was a long, bitter silence. I called Tyler, told him to stay at his friend's house for the night, called Emily's aunt, told her to keep her until tomorrow. My voice didn't shake. My hands didn't either. But inside, a storm was coming. And this time it wasn't emotional. It was physical, real. I hung up, turned to her. You need to call him. Tell him to stay away. Right now. She looked terrified. Do it. She picked up the phone. Dialed. It rang once. Twice. Then voicemail. She hung up and tried again. No answer. Again. Voicemail. She was crying now. First time since it all started. But it wasn't grief. It was fear. He's not answering. And right then, as if summoned by her lies, we heard the knock. 3 sharp pounds on the front door, followed by silence. She looked at me, frozen. I stepped forward, not toward the door, toward her. You brought him here. Her lips trembled. And now, I said, you're going to walk out there and fix it. She shook her head fast. No, no way. You made this storm, I said, my voice cold and calm. You don't get to hide in the basement while it passes. The knock came again. Slower, heavier. She backed away like a cornered animal. But this time, she wasn't cornered by me. She was cornered by the chaos she created. And for once, she had no idea what came next. She ran. Not to the door, not to face what she summoned, but into the bedroom, slamming the door behind her like a child hiding from thunder. I didn't follow. I didn't say a word. I just stood in the hallway and listened to her scramble with the lock, fumbling like someone trying to shut a vault before the earthquake hits. The knock came again, this time softer, slower, then a voice. His, open up. He wasn't yelling. He wasn't threatening, just stating. 3 words like a trigger waiting to be pulled. I moved to the front window and shifted the curtain an inch. There he was. Same sunglasses. Same smirk as before, only this time it wasn't playful. It was flat, like he wasn't here for conversation. He looked up, saw me, and waved. I didn't wave back. Then he said it. I'm not leaving without a conversation. I opened the door. Only a crack. He took a step closer. I didn't move. Where is she? He asked, voice low. Gone. He narrowed his eyes. Her car's in the driveway. She's done here. He took another step. I didn't flinch. I don't think you get to decide that, he said. That's when I saw it. In his eyes. He wasn't just angry. He felt entitled. To her. To our home. To some version of the story she'd fed him where he was the rescuer and I was the villain in the final act. I stepped outside and closed the door behind me. You need to leave, I said. He scoffed. That what she told you to say? She's not saying anything. She's hiding. That surprised him. You think I'm here to hurt her? You're not here to help. He looked at the ground, then back up at me. She said you were dangerous. And you believed her? He didn't answer. You think someone's dangerous because their stepson finds a photo she sent to another man and panics? You think someone's dangerous because he stays quiet while his wife turns his house into a stage for betrayal? His jaw clenched. You don't know her, I said. You know what she wants you to know. You're a tool, a chess piece. And the second you stop being useful, she'll sacrifice you like she did everyone else. Still, he didn't move. So I gave him the final piece. She told me she never loved you. Said you were just a thrill. Said bringing you here was about revenge, not romance. He blinked. Just once. But it was enough. I leaned in. And she told me you believed everything. Silence. Then his phone buzzed. He looked down. I saw the name flash on his screen. And the message. Call me now. He's threatening me. I think he's going to hurt me. Please. He stared at the screen like it betrayed him. She just sent that? He asked. While she's locked in my bedroom, I said. He looked at me, and something shifted. I drove here thinking I was doing the right thing, he muttered. She said you were dangerous, that you were hurting the kids, that she had no way out. And you believed her, because it felt good to play the hero. His lips tightened. He stepped back. Then again. Then finally off the porch. He didn't say goodbye, didn't look back, just walked down the driveway, phone still in his hand, now shaking like he was trying to figure out whose voice had really been lying to him all along. I didn't move until I heard the engine start. Then I went back inside, locked the door. She was still in the bedroom. I knocked once. "You can come out," I said. "He's gone." No answer. "I told you this would happen." Still nothing. So I left her there, in the dark, in the silence, alone with the mess she couldn't pin on anyone else anymore. And that was the beginning of the end. Not the end of the marriage. That was already dead. But the end of her control. The end of the narrative where she was the victim, the center, the queen of the board. She tried to use chaos like a weapon. And now? It was only pointing back at her. She stayed locked in the bedroom for the rest of the night. No footsteps. No creaking floorboards. No flush toilet. Just silence. A perfect vacuum of sound behind that door, like she'd finally realized the world wasn't listening to her screams anymore. I didn't check on her. Didn't knock again. I made myself dinner, quietly. Something frozen and tasteless, because food didn't matter that night. I sat at the table alone, stared at the empty seats, and let it all settle. Not grief, not even anger. Just the eerie calm that comes after a tornado when you realize the roof's gone but you're still standing. Barely, but standing. I was halfway through cleaning up when I heard it. Not from the bedroom. From the front porch. Car engine. Then a knock. Not him again. No, this knock was timid. Uneven. Almost reluctant. I opened the door and saw Tyler. Backpack over one shoulder. Hoodie pulled low. Face unreadable. "I couldn't stay there," he said. I stepped aside. No questions asked. He walked in, dropped the bag, and just stood there. Not looking at me. Not looking at the hallway. Just existing. After a minute, he said, "I don't want to talk about her." "Okay," I said. "We won't." He nodded, then sat on the couch and pulled out his laptop. As if nothing had happened. As if he needed to pretend just to keep from screaming. I made him some food. We didn't speak for the next 2 hours. Not out of discomfort. Out of necessity. The silence between us wasn't empty. It was full. Full of understanding. Full of everything she tried to twist, burn, bury. Eventually, I asked him, "Did she ever do anything else? Before this?" He paused, chewed slowly, then looked down. "She used to ask weird questions," he said. "Like if I thought you were controlling. If I ever felt like you were spying on her. Said you were emotionally absent. Tried to get me to agree. I didn't. But she kept planting seeds. That hit harder than anything yet. Because she hadn't just manipulated me. She'd been conditioning him. Slowly. Systematically. You never told me," I said. He shrugged. "I didn't think it mattered. I figured it was just her being her." "Tyler, that does matter." He nodded. Looked older than 17 in that moment. "I know." Then came the moment I wasn't ready for. He turned and asked, "What happens now?" I didn't have a clear answer. "She'll be served soon," I said. "The process starts from there. She might try to fight it. Say things. Twist everything. But we'll get through it." He didn't respond for a moment. Then, "She scares me. Not like, physically. Just the way she thinks. Like she believes if she lies hard enough, the world will just bend around her. She's losing that power. She won't let go of it easily." "No," I agreed. "She won't." Just then, the bedroom door creaked open. She appeared in the hallway, barefoot, mascara smudged, phone in hand. She looked like someone who hadn't slept in weeks, except it had only been a few hours. Her eyes landed on Tyler. "I didn't know you were coming home tonight," she said, voice small, almost gentle. He didn't look at her. She waited, then turned her eyes to me. "Can we talk?" "Not now," I said. "I just want to explain." "There's nothing left to explain. You don't understand what he. I understand exactly what you did." She took a breath, then said the quiet part out loud. "You're going to take them away from me." It wasn't a question. It wasn't a plea. It was a realization. "No," I said. "You already did that. One lie at a time." And for the first time since the entire charade began, she didn't argue. She didn't beg. She just turned around and went back into the bedroom. Tyler looked at me, then down at his laptop. Neither of us said a word, because we both knew something she hadn't figured out yet. This wasn't about punishment. It was about removal. Systematic. Permanent. She had built a stage, cast herself the lead. But the audience left, and the lights were going out. The next morning, she was gone. Not packed. Not vanished. Just absent. Her car wasn't in the driveway. Her phone charger was still tangled in the outlet. Makeup left scattered across the bathroom sink like a trail of breadcrumbs. But no note. No message. Just the open front door and the cold air it let in. Tyler found it first. He stood by the door with his arms crossed, staring like the hole she'd left might suck the whole house into it. I checked the cameras. She'd walked out at 4:12 a.m. Alone. Hoodie up, keys in hand. And that's when I knew. She wasn't running from guilt. She was regrouping. People like her don't vanish. They recalculate. She wasn't done, just repositioning. I told Tyler to stay alert, to not answer if she called, and that the lawyer was already preparing for emergency measures. He didn't ask questions. He just nodded. By noon, the first retaliation arrived. A police officer at the door. Not dramatic. Not sirens. Just a knock, a uniform, and a stack of paper. Temporary restraining order. Filed under emotional abuse, coercive control, and the most vicious accusation, threats of violence toward a minor. She named Tyler as the victim. I read the statement in silence. According to her version, I'd isolated her, manipulated the household, brainwashed Tyler against her, and created a climate of psychological intimidation. She claimed the night her friend came to the door, it was a safety measure, that she feared I would snap. She even referenced the fake paternity test, calling it a necessary reveal to protect the child from a volatile environment. It was a masterpiece of lies, constructed with precision, written like fiction, but it bore her name, and it was real enough for a court date. I showed Tyler. He stared at the paper without blinking. "She's trying to use me now?" he said, voice low. "She's scared. You're a witness. You're not supposed to see her." He sat down, hands in fists. "She won't stop. She never stops." That was the moment I realized what this really was. Not just betrayal, not even revenge. It was survival. For her, this wasn't about losing a family. It was about keeping power. And if she had to rewrite the truth, bury people under lies, drag a teenager through court just to avoid consequence, she would. I called the lawyer. Sent everything, the texts, the card, the security footage, even the call logs from the man she tried to weaponize. We were building a wall, brick by brick. Evidence stacked like armor. Every lie she launched, we'd turn it into stone. Tyler stayed home that day. We didn't talk much. What was there to say? Your stepmother tried to frame your father. You've become collateral in a war she started and refuses to lose. That night, she called. My phone lit up at 11:36 p.m. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. Not pleading. Not angry. Just hollow. You're going to regret this. When you realize what you've done to her. When she asks why her father abandoned her. When you don't have an answer, Brad, that's when you'll feel it. You always thought you were the good guy. But good guys don't erase mothers. Click. I sat in silence. And for the first time since it all began, I didn't feel fury. I felt finality. This wasn't about custody. It wasn't about marriage. It wasn't even about her anymore. It was about stopping a person who only ever saw love as a leash and learning how to cut it. Clean. Cold. For good. The court hearing was set for a Thursday. Gray skies. Thin rain tapping the windows of the courtroom like a quiet reminder that some storms are silent, but no less destructive. She arrived 10 minutes late, like always, wearing white. Not cream, not ivory, white. As if the courtroom was a stage and she'd dressed for the role of the wronged woman. Eyes down. No makeup. Hair pulled back into a tight knot, the kind that screams humility. The only thing missing was a tissue clutched dramatically in her fist. She didn't look at me. Not once. She didn't look at Tyler either. But the second Emily's name was mentioned, her head snapped up like a reflex. Like she thought invoking her child was a holy shield. She painted the story with perfect strokes. About fear, manipulation. A home built on eggshells. About me. About the night she fled for her safety. about how Tyler had been turned against her by subtle emotional warfare. She cried on cue. But it didn't stick. Because then came the evidence. My lawyer handed over the texts, the call logs, the paternity manipulation, the fabricated accusations, the security footage, and finally Tyler's statement, voluntarily written, not coached, not curated, just the truth, in the handwriting of a teenager who had been old enough to watch her unravel the entire house from the inside out. When the judge asked Tyler if he wanted to speak, he said yes. He stood up, steady, and said, "She told me I should lie about my dad. She said no one would believe me if I told the truth anyway, that she could flip it if she needed to. She said people only believe the first one to cry." I didn't understand what that meant until now. Her face changed. Not horror, not shame, panic. She knew she'd lost him, and without him, she had no narrative left. The restraining order was dismissed. Her credibility shredded. She tried to interrupt, tried to inject herself into Tyler's statement. The judge silenced her firmly. "Mrs., this is not your time." And that was the moment I saw it. The break. Not loud, not dramatic, just a crack behind the eyes. A woman watching her reflection fall apart in real time. Because she hadn't just lost the case. She'd lost control. Custody was split, but with a clause. Emily would remain with me, pending a psychological evaluation of the mother and a monitored visitation structure. And Tyler? Tyler was emancipated. 17 but fully free. She stormed out before the hearing ended. Didn't take her jacket. Didn't say a word. Vanished like smoke after the match has already gone out. Weeks passed. Then months. She didn't show up for visitation. Didn't send gifts. Didn't write. The silence she once weaponized turned on her. Emily stopped asking questions. Stopped waiting by the window on weekends. I told her, when the time came, that some people leave not because we push them away, but because they never truly knew how to stay. And Tyler? He graduated with honors. He spoke at his ceremony. His speech was about truth, and what it means to rebuild from the rubble when the hands that ruined everything were supposed to protect you. Now, the house is quiet again, but it's a good quiet. The kind where doors don't slam and no one flinches when the phone buzzes. The kind where no one's walking on eggshells or waiting for the next mask to fall. It's not perfect, but it's ours. And if there's one thing I've learned, it's this: monsters don't always hide under the bed. Sometimes, they kiss you goodnight and say, "Don't forget to lock the door." But the real peace, the real freedom, comes when you realize you're allowed to change the locks, and you never ever have to hand them the key again.